Your Ford could be slowly destroying its own engine right now, even if you take great care of it and never miss maintenance. I'm not talking about abuse, racing, or towing a house behind it. I'm talking about one everyday driving habit that feels completely harmless, even responsible, but is quietly cutting your engine's lifespan in half and leading to repairs so expensive that people give up and trade their trucks instead of fixing them. I've been a Ford technician for more than 15 years. Whenever a modern Ford engine fails early, I can almost always trace the cause back to the way the owner drives. They swear they did everything right: premium synthetic oil, dealership services, no modifications, and no aggressive driving. But once I look inside the intake, drain the oil, or scope the cylinders, I can see exactly what has been going on. Modern Ford engines, particularly the EcoBoost lineup, are incredibly powerful and efficient, but they are also extremely sensitive to short trips and constant cold starts. Quick drives to the store, school drop-offs, running through a drive-through, moving the truck from the street into the garage, start it, shut it off, start it, shut it off. These tiny heat cycles add up fast, and the engine never gets the chance to protect itself the way it was engineered to. When your engine is cold, the metal parts inside, pistons, rings, and bearings, aren't warmed up and expanded to their ideal shape yet. The combustion process isn't hot enough to burn fuel cleanly. Soot and vapor accumulate instead of being burned away. With direct injection, fuel is sprayed straight into the cylinders, so your intake valves never get cleaned by gasoline like they did in older engines. So every short drive leaves behind microscopic bits of carbon that stick to those valves. Day by day, that buildup grows thicker. I have pulled intake manifolds off engines with fewer than 50,000 miles that looked like someone packed wet charcoal around every valve. The owner always says the same thing, but I barely drive it. Exactly! That is the problem. Modern engines need sustained heat and proper load to clean themselves. They do not just need miles on the odometer, they need the right kind of miles. The first symptoms are subtle: a little roughness at idle, a soft hesitation when you hit the gas, a few miles per gallon disappearing. It is easy to ignore, but beneath the surface, the carbon is thickening, airflow is dropping, and the engine is working harder than it used to. But carbon isn't the only problem. Short trips also destroy the quality of your oil long before the monitoring system ever warns you about it. Every time you start a cold engine, a small amount of unburned fuel sneaks past the piston rings and ends up in the crankcase. On a proper long drive, high oil temperatures evaporate that fuel back out. If you shut the engine down early, that fuel stays in the oil. Over time, your full synthetic oil becomes gasoline-tainted chemical soup that is thinner, more acidic, and far less capable of protecting critical parts. I have smelled oil during service that reeked like raw gasoline. Many owners say they changed the oil exactly when the dash told them to. Unfortunately, that reminder assumes normal driving, a mix of short trips and regular longer runs. If almost every drive is under 10 minutes, that maintenance interval is too long. Timing chains, bearings, and cam phasers, already stressed parts, are all relying on oil that isn't doing its job anymore. And then there is the turbocharger. EcoBoost engines are famous for torque and efficiency, but their turbos rely on fast-flowing, healthy oil to survive. On a short trip, the turbo might get just hot enough to cook the oil trapped inside its bearings when you park, but not hot enough for the engine to keep oil circulating and clean it out. That baked oil turns into varnish, then hardened sludge. Slowly, the turbo's oil passages begin to clog. The turbo shaft develops play. Power drops without warning. Eventually, the turbo fails, sometimes sending metal fragments into the engine and turning a simple repair into a total nightmare. The owner insists they never abused it. They did not have to. Short trips do the damage silently. Ford doesn't warn you about this when you buy the truck. The salesperson never says, by the way, if you mostly drive 5 minutes at a time, this engine will choke on its own buildup. There is no bright red sticker on the dashboard explaining fuel dilution, thermal stress, or turbo oil coking. The truth is simple. These engines are designed to run, not to sit. They're built for sustained operation, full warm-up cycles, and regular load. If you never give them that, they start failing from the inside out. But here is the encouraging part. Engines are not fragile. They do not need to be babies. They just need the right conditions. The correct way to warm up a modern Ford is not to idle in the driveway for 10 minutes. That only prolongs the cold operation period when damage happens most. Start the engine, let oil pressure stabilize for a few seconds, then drive gently. Once the temperature gauge reaches normal, the engine can finally operate the way it is supposed to. Once it is warm, giving it a little boost in highway time is actually healthy. Heat and airflow burn off the deposits that would otherwise accumulate. If you cannot avoid short trips, combine errands so the truck stays running longer. Take the long way home once a week. Give the turbos a chance to stretch and the oil a chance to clean. Get your oil changed earlier than the vehicle computer tells you if your weeks are filled with quick start and stop driving. It will save you far more in the long run than trying to squeeze extra miles out of a contaminated oil fill. I have serviced identical trucks with the same mileage. One spent its life towing on the highway, the other lived in town running errands. Open the valve covers and they look like they came from two different planets. All of this leads to a simple truth. If you want your Ford to last 200,000 miles or more, do not let it live its whole life half warmed and half protected. If this is hitting a little close to home, that is good. It means you now understand what the dealership never bothered explaining. And the best part? You can start treating your engine differently today. The sooner, the better. In the next part, we are going deeper into what happens when this cycle continues for years without correction, the invisible damage from thermal cycling that leads to the most expensive repairs Ford owners ever face. If you are not careful, it does not just shorten your engine life. It can end it, so stay tuned. Your truck's future depends on it. Earlier, we uncovered how short driving habits quietly flood your Ford's engine with carbon, fuel contamination, and turbo stress. But there is an even bigger danger happening at the same time. One that does not show up until the damage is expensive, advanced, and in many cases, irreversible. It is something I see on repair orders constantly, and almost every owner reacts the same way. How could this happen already? I barely drive it. It happens because your Ford is not just suffering from dirty internals. It is being structurally stressed from the inside out. Every cold start begins with the engine's metal completely contracted. The pistons are smaller, the rings have not expanded, the aluminum cylinder head and the steel block are at different temperatures, different sizes, and they fight forces they were not designed to endure for long. A modern Ford is engineered for precise tolerances once fully warmed up. When you never allow that to happen, those very tight tolerances turn into stress points. Gaskets stretch and shrink, seals deform and relax, and parts that should last the life of the vehicle suddenly have a lifespan measured in years, not decades. If you have ever heard of a head gasket failure on a relatively new Ford, or seen someone with a coolant leak at 60,000 miles, or noticed oil seeping from the timing cover long before you expected it, that is thermal cycling fatigue, over and over and over again. Moisture plays a role too. Combustion creates water vapor naturally. When the engine gets hot enough, that vapor exits harmlessly through the exhaust. When it does not, it condenses inside the crankcase, mixes with the oil, rusts surfaces that should never see corrosion, and forms acids that literally eat away at metal bearings. If you have seen milky residue on an oil cap before, that is moisture that never burned away. It is the signature of chronic short trip operation. And that is exactly how timing chain tensioners start failing. Those hydraulic components depend on oil pressure and clean fluid. Diluted, moisture-laden oil causes them to lose tension just slightly at first, a tiny rattle on cold starts. People ignore it. They assume it is normal aging, but that noise is the engine begging for help. By the time it is noticeable every morning, the chain has been running loose for years, wearing down plastic guides, introducing microscopic metal shavings into the oil, and slowly eating away at the heart of your engine's timing system. If that system slips even a single tooth, you do not just have a repair, you have a disaster. A similar story unfolds inside the turbo. One job: spin fast, stay balanced, and stay lubricated. But short drives boil the oil in the turbo housing without circulating enough fresh oil to replace it. You shut the engine off, and suddenly the turbo has zero oil flow while sitting in a tiny furnace of exhaust heat. The remaining oil cooks into a crust. Do that a few hundred times, and the bearing wears out far earlier than Ford ever intended. Here's a real-world detail that will surprise a lot of owners. Turbos rarely explode suddenly. Most of the time, they fade slowly, a little more lag between pressing the pedal and feeling the power. A slight whine you only notice when the radio is off. A small puff of smoke when you accelerate after idling. The truck still drives and still feels strong most of the time, until one moment where everything changes, often while towing or merging, when you need power the most. By then, the warning signs have been ignored for too long. Short trip wear also attacks your PCV system, the network of hoses and valves that vents pressure from the crankcase. When the engine never gets hot enough to evaporate moisture, that system clogs. Now the engine cannot breathe properly, internal pressure rises, and oil gets pushed into places it should never go, including the intake. That accelerates the carbon buildup we talked about earlier. It is a cycle, a silent loop of self-destruction. Combine that with constant automatic start-stop activations, shutting the engine off dozens of times in city traffic, and the wear multiplies. People think they are saving fuel. In reality, every one of those startup cycles is tugging on timing chains, forcing bearings to operate with minimal oil pressure, and reintroducing the worst conditions for metal-on-metal contact. The fuel savings might be a couple dollars a month, the repair bill, thousands. Now here's where I want to give you some hope. Engines are tough, they don't need perfection, just proper patterns. If you've been short-tripping your Ford for years, the damage isn't set in stone. Some of it is reversible. Much of it is preventable from here forward. The engine is practically begging you for one simple thing: consistency. A full warm-up cycle. Real driving, not aggressive driving, but productive driving. Enough time for the oil to flow like it should, for the combustion chambers to reach cleansing heat, for moisture and raw fuel to burn off rather than settle. You can start today. Every week, give your truck a proper 40-minute drive. Combine errands instead of splitting them into 6 stops. Take back roads that let the engine stretch out a little. Let it see 3rd, 4th, 5th gear instead of constantly stuck in 1st and 2nd. These engines are happiest when they are doing what they were engineered to do: run, tow, haul, cruise, work. And if you've noticed any of those early symptoms — cold start rattles, hesitation, random misfires, or declining mileage — don't ignore them. That's your Ford communicating with you in the only way it can. Catching these signs early can be the difference between a $200 service and a $4,000 repair. One dealership visit can tell you a lot. A compression test, a bore scope inspection, an oil analysis. You can find out if your engine is simply dirty or already damaged. But the most important thing is changing your habits now. Don't let convenience ruin capability. You bought a capable truck. Treat it like one. Let it live the way it's designed. Don't leave your investment idling its life away 10 minutes at a time. Too many Ford owners don't discover this truth until they are facing timing chain replacements, failed turbos, seized bearings, or head gaskets that can no longer hold compression. And almost all of them say the same heartbreaking thing: I wish somebody had told me sooner. Well, now someone has. So here's the takeaway. Your Ford isn't fragile, it isn't weak, it is just sophisticated. It needs the proper conditions to protect itself. If you love your truck, and I know you do, then give it what it needs. Give it heat, give it load, give it mileage. Take care of the oil, and the oil will take care of the engine. If you are still with me, hit the like button so other Ford owners get this information before it is too late. Drop a comment and tell me what kind of driving you do, short trip, highway, towing. I want to see how your trucks are living their lives. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. I am here to make sure your Ford lasts as long as you want it to, not just until the warranty runs out. Thanks for watching, and go give that truck a real drive. It deserves it, and so do you.